Hello and welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah. If you own an electric vehicle or you're enthused about electric vehicles, you've likely wanted to rent an EV when you go to rent a car. And whether it's Hertz or Enterprise or 50 or Avis or even Turo, there are a ton of electric vehicle options for you to now choose from. Hertz, for example, I think of primarily when I think about renting an electric vehicle from a rental car company, has put millions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars in buying EVs, millions of dollars in marketing. They have a Super Bowl ad with Tom Brady about how they have EVs for rent. Hertz is really the pioneer when it comes to renting EVs. And like all rental car companies, they rent a car and it goes through its life cycle, right? After 50,000, 70,000 miles, they have a vehicle that they no longer want to have for rent anymore. So typically, what used to happen is these car companies would actually just sell them off on auction. But now, a lot of these rental car companies have their own used, certified car websites. And Hertz is no exception. They have a used certified car website. They have Bolts, they have Teslas, they have Solterra Subarus, Polestars, Volvos. They have Mach-E's, Silverado EVs, right? They have a pretty good selection of options for you to not only rent, but buy an EV from. And so right here, we have a lot of good options here. I'll use, for example, right, 2023 Chevy Bolt EV, $16,984 with just 44,000 miles. This car would sell above $25,000 new. So you're saving quite a bit of money for a vehicle with, that's just a year, two model years older and has 40,000 miles. And for EVs, we know 40,000 miles, especially under warranty, isn't a lot. And so this is a really good option, but it extends farther than the Chevy Bolts. A 2023 Tesla Model 3 base, $25,000, 42,000 miles. This is, I think, proof of depreciation. We'll get into electric vehicle depreciation in a second, but a 2023 Model 3 base, and now this is the first generation of Model 3. New, this vehicle would start about $35,000 to $37,000. With just 42,000 miles, it is now at $25,000. That is a $10,000 loss in depreciation. And for these car rental companies, these vehicles are more than just an asset to produce money, right? To sell to customers, to rent their EVs. They're also an asset, right? They're something that still maintains value and something that they're able to sell after, right? They've used the vehicle for rentals. And so depreciation is not something that these rental companies want to see a lot of, right? It would be nice to buy a vehicle for $35,000, it add 50,000 miles, and for it to sell for $30,000 a year or two or three later. That's what you want to see. Hertz said that in their fourth quarter of 2023, they had a projected $245 million loss in electric vehicle depreciation alone, right? That's hundreds of millions of dollars. $245 million lost in just one quarter of 2023 for Hertz alone. And a lot of this is reflected in the money that they're getting back when they're selling these vehicles. Now, let's kind of talk about electric vehicle depreciation here, right? Electric vehicles are a technology now, right? Today, we're seeing the immersion of a device like your phone and your car really almost be synonymous, right? Electric cars are really packed with technology. And like any piece of technology hardware, year after year, it's going to get better. For instance, the Toyota BZ4X, they've reduced the 2025 model year by thousands of dollars compared to the 2024. And the 2025 has more range, a little bit more range, and a little bit more power. That's going to make the 2025 more desirable, right? If I can get a car that is newer for less money and a little better, I would just get the 2025. Why would I waste money on a 2024? This creates more depreciation. Besides the fact that it's a used vehicle, right? The new one being better creates less demand for the used vehicle. That decreases prices over time. And for an emerging technology like electric vehicles, which are being innovated every single year. We're seeing new implementations of just better technology. That's going to make the old iterations a lot depreciate faster, essentially. And so I imagine these rental car companies don't want to see that. It's the same reason a lot of people complain about the depreciation of their electric vehicles. I think within the next decade or two, as the innovation cycle starts to slow down, and instead of seeing right a bump of 30 miles for the next model year, we might see really no change. Right, it'll just be a small iteration, and that'll help with some of the depreciation. But regardless, again, rental car companies don't want to see that. And so Hertz is in the position of selling these vehicles off for a really cheap price. Now, let me just jump right into the basis of all of this, right? Hertz is now advertising these vehicles to people who just rented them, right? Let me get that straight. If you rent a Tesla Model 3 from Hertz, for example, at the end of your rental, they will send you an email advertising the same vehicle you just bought. They're trying to increase the amount of eyes and marketing for people to buy their used vehicles. I would be ill of me to say that the Tesla Model 3 isn't an amazing vehicle. And I imagine for people who are first time renters, they would probably think a lot about this vehicle. They would probably think this is a really cool car, good sound system. I love the technology, the integration. Maybe charging wasn't as bad as they thought, and maybe they'll be interested in buying one for themselves. And so Hertz says, you know what? We're going to send an email at the end of their rental car session, and they'll be able to buy the EV that they just rented. And so here we have one example. This is another example of depreciation. They rented a Tesla Model 3. They got an email, right? Good price for a Tesla, sub 30,000 miles for just $18,000, $17,913 for a 2023 Tesla Model 3. That is an absolute steal. 30,000 miles, right? The warranty still has a long way to go. Again, it is a rental, right? We have the saying, drive it like it's a rental. Would you want to buy a rental car? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I think I might want to. I don't know. I think these are pretty good deals. And I'm definitely eyeing them. But regardless, right, they're trying to advertise their used EVs to people who have just rented a car. And again, this is proof that Hertz is really trying to dump a lot of the EV inventory that they have. And look, I'll show on here screen again. I think this is a pretty good example. We have the 2023 Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, the Hertz edition. I don't even think I was alive to remember this. I'm so sorry. But years ago, Hertz and Ford had a special Mustang, a Hertz special Mustang with this gold decal. And essentially, it was a Mustang that you can only rent in Hertz. I gotta say, it's good looking, right? It's got the gold decal with Shelby on it in this nice black with really good wheels, red calipers. That's got to be a little bit of a flex. And Hertz did this for the Mustang Mach-E. Hertz had to buy all of these Mustang Mach-E's from Ford, right? Ford had to then make them. And now you're selling it, right? They're really pushing heavy on these EVs. Now we have a few 8,000, 10,000, 8,000, 9,000, 7,000 miles, and they're selling for $60,000. Do you really think that's going to sell super well, especially for the 2023 model year, when you can get a 2025 Mustang Mach-E for a little less than that? I'll pull this up here on my screen. A 2025 Mustang Mach-E GT. I mean, you can get used ones with less miles starting at $50,000. So again, it doesn't really make these super appealing, and Hertz doesn't want to lose a bunch of money. But I thought this was a pretty interesting conversation. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Hertz is really trying to dump a lot of their inventory off. Let's go into some of the settings here. So we have the make, and you guys are watching, right? So they have Chevys, Fords, Kias. Let's see what Kias they have in inventory. So they have just two. So they're EV6s. Oh, they have one EV6 and a Niro EV. So the EV6 is $32,000 with 16,000 miles. And the 2019 Kia Niro EV, which you can both now get with an axe, by the way. You can watch that video over here. You can now get with NAX $17,000, 60,000 miles, right? They have Chevrolet Silverado EVs, which we just saw. And the Silverado EV, this is the work truck edition. I'll show, for example, a 2024 Silverado EV work truck, right? These are selling at my local dealer for $80,000 new. Now, these are being sold with just 14,000, 8,000, 16,000 miles for $60,000. That's a pretty big hit in depreciation there. Again, it is a used vehicle, so they're going to sell a little less. But yeah, we have Bolts, Silverado EVs. Let's see what Mercedes they have over here. Some EQBs, not bad, and one in Hawaii, and then Scottsdale, Arizona. 8,000 miles, $30,000 is for the base. These are the base model EQBs. And an EQB doesn't run extremely cheap either. A lot of these vehicles are probably good lease deals, but a new 2024 EQB you can buy for $56,000, and that is for the 250, right? The base. So this same vehicle here is selling for almost half off with just 8,000 miles. That's a gigantic hit in depreciation. But again, it has to be a little appealing, because if I can get something that's just a year older with 8,000 miles, I would rather buy the one from Hertz than the new one. Preferably. I'm fine with buying a used EV from especially a rental car company. Again, forget the fact that you can drive it like a rental car, and these are probably pretty abused. We have a Model Y 2022, 54,000 miles. It's a pretty good amount of miles. $30,000. It's a long range. But we have a lot of, right, another 2023 Model 3 long range sedan, 50,000 miles, $25,000. Personally, I think that's a pretty good deal. If you're in Cincinnati, Ohio, there's an offer right there. So look, Hertz is really dumping a lot of these EVs. There's also a lot of maintenance that comes with these EVs, right? Tire replacements are likely something that they have to do more often with rental cars anyway. Add on the fact that it's an EV. EVs typically go through tires a lot quicker. That's another expense that they have to go through. Even though the maintenance is none to zero, zero to none, things like tires, having to add the infrastructure to charge their vehicles so the next renter can have a fully charged vehicle. Add on the fact of depreciation. There are a lot of logistics that come in place that maybe don't make rental car companies really good at renting EVs yet. Enterprise, for example, Enterprise actually also has a pretty good selection of EVs. They're one of the only EV companies that you're able to rent Rivians from. They have a bigger selection of Mercedes as well. They have some Mercedes EVs. So, like EQSs, EQBs, or the G Wagon, rather, electric G Wagon. Hertz seems to be doing it a little better, but Hertz does it at a way smaller scale. No one is doing it at the scale of Hertz. And even from some Turo renters that rent EVs that I've talked to, the profitability of these electric vehicles when renting them on Turo are getting slimmer every single month. And not only from the competition out there, but from the appreciation values as well. So yeah, look, I was yapping there for a second, but I thought this was a pretty interesting topic. Would you buy an electric vehicle that used to be a rental car if you got as much as half off for it? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what other content ideas you want to see in the future. My name is Isaiah. This is the Out of Spec podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next one.